As some of you lot would have known by now, and if you haven't, whether you've watched the game, caught up on the highlights, check the result. Yesterday, Arsenal defeated Monaco on penalties. In normal time, it ended 1-1. We won the penalty shootout, and that ends our pre-season preparations, depending on if you count Sunday's Community Shield, or as I like to refer to it as the English Super Cup, as a somewhat pre-season game. For me, I don't. The season's here. Anytime you play Manchester City, as we know, they're the big bad bullies in the Premier League. They were the only team to finish above us. In normal years, what we did last season was probably enough to win the Premier League, not in an ever-changing landscape where every fine margin you can gain on your opponents makes the world of a difference. Not when you're playing a super club like Manchester City with all of their players, regardless of who's stayed and who's departing. And on top of all of that, Pep Guardiola. There's a lot our players need to learn from last season, because as great as I believe City are, I think for a variety of reasons, we crumbled last season ourselves. We dropped the ball ourselves, really. Unfortunately, you can't win every game in the 38 game calendar, so you're going to lose some unless you're the Invincibles. Hint hint. There's a lot we could do better, and I think the major thing we could do better is learn from our experiences, because we learned when we finished fifth, we learned and we finished within the top four. Hopefully that's a positive omen for winning the league, but we're going to need a lot. The only enemy in life should be yourself. You should only look in the mirror. You can only be competitive with yourself. That's true victory. And I think internally, individually, every player, even the ones that I think had great seasons, they could do a lot better. Nobody in this team is the finished article. Likewise, collectively, we're not. Mikel Arteta isn't. The players aren't. Even Edu and the sporting director are all learning on the job. I think what could help us is defensively, defending on the transitions a lot better, being better from set pieces, preventing the opposition from chances. And just generally within pre-season, I think we've seen some good stuff. I think we've seen an ever-changing, it's gone from having a great 11 to somewhat developing, having a great squad. I think we've shown that we can, put together some great attacking moves, score a lot of goals. There's a bit of added resilience. The individually, there's some good players. Players are adapting to different roles. We're starting to see Mikel Arteta be even more flexible tactically and experiment a bit more. Again, I'd describe Havertz as an experiment. Timber is fighting Tomiyasu, in my opinion, of being labelled the most versatile defender within Arsenal's back line, because he can play right back, do a job at left back. Who knows? He might even start left back, in my opinion, against Manchester City on Sunday, as well as obviously being at home in centre half. You've seen Kirio Tomiyasu play fullback. You've seen Tierney look good when Timber's on the right hand side. I still think collectively, there's a lot of things we could do better. I think the goals we conceded against Barcelona, the goal we conceded against Monaco, the goal we conceded, or better yet, goals we conceded against Manchester United, whether that was on the transition, following runners, individual mistakes, switching off. These are the things we need to improve. Not a single person is alone. Our first attacker is our goalie. Our first defender is our striker. We're going to need to get with it. Now, check out the other tactical videos. Isolated to the Monaco game, I don't think there is in isolation much to really say. I think it was obviously good practice to work on penalties, because you never know, against Manchester City in the Community Shield, we might rely on penalties. So it was lovely to see, every player score. Lovely to see Ramsdale save. If I had to pick a penalty for me, I think Havertz's one was brilliant. I think Jorginho's one was brilliant. Nice to see Fabio Vieira's hit the target from the penalty spot, and likewise Ramsdale saved one. So maybe Saka and Martinelli have competition for taking penalties. So it was obviously good practice to see that. Obviously, Timber is probably the star of pre-season. I think a lot of players have looked good during pre-season. But if I had to say at a push, I would say for me, Timber, out of all the signings we've made, Declan Rice is great, but I think Timber's hit the ground running. I'm intrigued with Havertz, but I think Timber's hit the ground running. Aggressive, tenacious, lovely passing range, can play as a traditional fullback or invert centrally. Very much an Arsenal player, very much a player that is Dutch and come from the Dutch education system in terms of football. And at 22 years of age, the world's his oyster, really, and it's good problems for Mikel Arteta to have. Do you go with him and Benjamin White? Do you play Timber on the left-hand side? Again, we don't know if Kieran Tierney is going to stay, but to have Kirio, who's also looked good in that inverted role, Tomiyasu, Timber, and a Zinchenko, as well as Tierney, we've got fantastic depth, as well as these players able to play elsewhere. So I did like more flexibility. I did like Arteta. I know Saka's ill allegedly. Saka got the day off. Unfortunately, Jesus is missing out with a knee injury and will be out for a couple of weeks. So against Monaco, we did know that a couple of first team players were going to get significant minutes, and likewise some wasn't. And I think that was kind of reflected in our build-up play. We all know you lose Martin Odegaard, you lose something out of it. and whatnot. And as much as I like Tomiyasu, he's more of a conservative defender. He doesn't really give you too much in an attacking sense to not get at him. But I think these players did well. I think Fabio Vieira didn't have as bad of a game as social media are making out, but it's more of the same as in a positive and negative light from Fabio Vieira. Of course, across the course of the minutes he played, obviously the 90 minutes, which is great for him. I think he showed some very good positive actions on the ball, trying to find teammates, actually winning the ball back from Monaco. But there's also sometimes he's physically overawed. It doesn't seem like he's physically robust enough for the Premier League, in my opinion. A couple of his end product in the final third and his delivery, I think, was kind of off. But nonetheless, it's nice to see him get minutes. And I'll be interested to see what Mikel Arteta does with Fabio Vieira. Really, last season, Xhaka was one of the first names on the team sheet, as was Martin Odegaard. So you're not going to play in your favorite 10 or 8 positions. You're going to play as a wide playmaker off the right. But you're not really going to see the best Fabio Vieira. His gameplay is not like Saka. He's not a 1v1 demon. He's not, he doesn't really do any of them things. So I'll be keen to see what Fabio Vieira brings to the table, especially as Rice and Partey is one combination with Odegaard in front of them, but there's the luxury of Rice or Partey in the lone 6, or even Jorginho, and rotating 8s either side, in which since Smith Rowe's joined us for pre-season, he's played there. You'd imagine Havertz can play there, Fabio Vieira has the capacity to play there, and there's plenty of others really. So it was on the topic of 8s. It was nice to see Declan Rice actually playing as an 8. I think initially he's going to play as a 6, but as he develops on what Mikel Arteta demands of him, I think he'll become a bit more all-rounded. I remember during his West Ham days, he spoke about wanting to get more goals and more assists, and I think he shows the capacity to get into the final third. It's just about polishing up. Like some of you remember that lovely pass Jorginho played, ironically, a player that Declan Rice spoke of previously in his West Ham days. He watches his videos to try and improve that defense splitting pass. I think you could do that. I also think Thomas Partey had a fantastic game, and I think some fans need to take a step back with all that sell him talk. We're going to need him. We're going to need all the players, especially after Granit Xhaka. And Rice is unlucky not to score. It was fantastic slide tackle from the Monaco lad, for what it's worth. So I did like Rice playing in that advanced 8. I don't really think the fringe players took their opportunities. I think Tomiyasu did okay. I think Smith Rowe started brightly and then kind of fizzled out towards the end. He's still my guy. I think Fabio Vieira was quite so-so. I think up until a point in the second half, Martinelli looked to be the most creative outlet or someone that's going to score a goal. And on that, I do think the subs who came on did well. Jorginho, Trossard, and so on and so forth. People, especially Trossard, especially with the amount of chances Trossard created very early on. I do think generally we could play with a bit more intensity. I think we lacked a clinicalness in front of goal yesterday. And I don't think we really created chances to the full capacity of our football club. Again, you would have seen throughout the course of this video, the shots we had on target, the shots we had on target. And similar to Monaco, I don't think both teams did well enough. I think there was 2 incidences. Now, of course, I'm cherry picking, but you have to cherry pick to, the margins make the difference. I think Ramsdale in the first half made a fantastic save. And then there was an incident in the second half where I think Ben Yedder clipped the post, where it's a lovely move from a Monaco perspective, from their goalie all the way to the striker, but it was too easy. And if I'm honest, Thomas Partey, Smith Rowe, Partey, Rice need to be a lot stronger in midfield, and they're not alone. It's just I just remembered those. So I think we could have done better in the defensive transition. I think we could have created more chances and scored more chances. I think certain players that play that are not necessarily in Arteta's immediate thinking. If the Premier League started tomorrow, I think they could have taken their opportunities a bit better. As I said, I think the substitutes did quite well when called upon. And I have to give credit to Monaco because they made it a difficult test, and a fantastic game, between 2 former Wenger sides. Wenger was in the building. I think Monaco are very good on the ball, very good playing out from the back. Every player wants it, can create chances, and probably should have created and scored more chances, like us. So I think isolated to the 90 minutes, I don't think a single player can really be surprised. All in all, in terms of pre-season, I think internally within the fan base, I think there's a bit of complacency that, we've arrived now. We've definitely turned the corner, but we need to forget about last season and repeat everything we did again. I think on reflection, obviously we did well against MLS All-Stars. I just really tried to focus on Monaco, Barcelona and Manchester United. Manchester United, Arteta did experiment, but again, football's about asking yourselves the right questions. If you go back to that game, well, they've cut us open in a couple of passes. They've hit it into the right-hand channel. Nobody's stopping the shot from Bruno, let alone following the runner. Ramsdale could have done better. We could have done better on the transition. The goals we conceded against Barcelona, the same logic, we could have done better. The goal we conceded against Monaco, we could have done better. Now, again, you're not just going to go off the preseason for a couple of weeks and then be great defensively. You're probably going to need 5, 10, 12 Premier League games for things to take place. But our Achilles heel, for me, is our ability to cope when key players aren't there. The Zinchenko's, the Xhaka, we're going to have to see the Salibas, etc. And defensively, you know, we're an improved defensive side. I don't think we're a title-winning defensive side. And it's been shown in several games last season, even games we've won. Brighton away, Leicester away, Leicester at home, Aston Villa away, Bournemouth at home. And a lot of other Man United at home and a lot of others. Obviously, you do point towards where it went wrong for us with Liverpool, West Ham, and obviously Southampton. And I think that's an ingredient that would be a part of a cocktail or mixed drink, as some of you would like to say, in relation to where our season went wrong. So I think our mentality needs to just keep going all the way. I think we need to improve at the dirty aspects of the game and really crave clean sheets, because a lot of these goals that we've conceded in pre-season could have been avoidable. But there's a lot of reasons to have confidence and optimism. We're getting, you know, other layers in our squad. You know, for me, Trossard's looking good in pre-season. Kyrgios look good. Timbers look good. Intrigued with Declan Rice. You know, need to see what Havertz is going to do under Arteta, but I give him that chance, really. And we're getting more depth. The only downside I would say to pre-season is that we're going into this Manchester United game, and until these guys are back at whatever point for that matter, you know, missing Zinchenko and Jesus key to the press and keen to what Arteta wants. Obviously, Zinchenko helps our build-up play with invertedness. Reece Nelson's not been able to play a part in pre-season. But where other players are not involved, other players need to take their opportunities. Injuries happen. We can't look for excuses. So as I said, people, I think it was good penalty practice. I think we've shown we can put some good attacking moves together when certain players are on song. I feel Odegaard on that looked good. It was nice to see and intriguing to see Rice in that advanced 8 role. You know, you've seen Rice play as a traditional 6. You've seen him play with Partey. You've seen him play at the base with Odegaard and Havertz either side of him during this pre-season. I think fringe players, you know, Fabio Vieira and Smith Rowe, they look good in some moments, and then others. I think Partey looked good. I think Jorginho looked good. I think Martinelli looked good. I know some fans will always be quick to kick Eddie Nketiah down, but I think Eddie has given a good account of himself in the minutes he's played in pre-season, and especially Monaco. And he's shown previously he can deputize in the absence of obviously Jesus. Whether he should be that, whether we should be relying on Eddie Nketiah to deputize in that regard, whether there's a drop-off or not a drop-off, these are questions that have to be laid at the feet of Mikel Arteta, because I praise the man for how he's assembled his squad collectively and individually. So when we find ourselves in scenarios where we've had to rely on Rob Holding for the last 2 years, when we tried to fight for the league and Champions League, where we've had to rely on El Nene, where, you know, I hope there's a plan to mitigate against Zinchenko. Probably in hindsight, Arteta's been doing that with the fullbacks, and obviously with Eddie Nketiah up front. We're going to have to find a way, and it starts on Sunday against Manchester City, people. It is what it is. So there's a lot to be positive. There's a lot of concerns, but it's just down to Arsenal to mitigate the concerns and enhance the good things. And ultimately, we don't know until we get on in the season. You know, for me, the early doors, regardless of who we have, we need to be targeting 12 points. Anything from 9 to 12 points. Let's give ourselves a good sort of platform. You know, we've got Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. We beat them at the Emirates. They're going to want revenge, and they kind of ruined our season when we went away from home against them. I want revenge. We've got Manchester United early doors. I want revenge. We've got Manchester City on Sunday. I want silverware, you know, and we've got some tough tests. I'm sure the North London derby is very early into the Premier League season and things. We're going to have to get on with it. You know, the beautiful thing, it doesn't matter when these fixtures are. Everyone has to play each other twice. Everyone's got a 38-game calendar. Let's get on with it. Hopefully, everybody stays fit. The players that aren't fit can get fit sooner rather than later. And yeah, man, I think we can have some confidence going into the season. I think there's plenty of reasons to be optimistic. Likewise, I think there's plenty of reasons to be not quite pessimistic, but or worried, but concerns that we need to improve off the back of last season. Mainly individual errors, lapse in concentration defensively on the transitions once again. Ultimately, we're just going to have to get on with it. You know, last season doesn't matter anymore. We learn what we need to learn from last season, good and bad, and we go again. Last season's irrelevant. What you did yesterday is irrelevant. It's about what we're doing going forward. And this season, there's a degree of expectation. Arsenal's not just a shiny new toy, a breath of fresh air. People are waiting to have positive and negative agendas. We're in the Champions League. We need to bring silverware in some degree. We need to get to the latter stages of the Champions League. We need to make sure that if City are to pip us to this title, if we are fighting for a title, it's because City have showed their quality, which was the case last season. But on top of that, as I said at the start, I believe that's one hand, but I also believe we gifted the title to City. I think it was in our hands and it was chocolate teapot settings. So hopefully we can go again. It's been a good pre-season. The big signings have been brought in early. Let's flush some players out. Hopefully we can bring some players in. And hopefully come the end of the 2023-24 campaign, we can look back with a sense of pride with some silverware. And hopefully on Sunday we get our first piece of silverware. Pep Guardiola, you might as well let us off, man. You claimed the treble. It's like the spoiled kid with all the toys that don't want no one else to play. But yeah, people, I don't think you would have learned too much in relation to the Monaco game, but nonetheless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section of how we played, what you've made of us in pre-season, what you've made of certain players individually or collectively. Who has been your pre-season player of the pre-season so far? Because I think Trossard's a candidate. I think Kyrill's a candidate. I'd probably give it to Timber, and I think there's other examples, really, people, of what we could do. I have liked what Arteta is doing. Hopefully, the more layers that he's adding to this side continue. Don't forget to smash the like button, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. God bless you for watching this video. Check out the rest of the tactical analysis. I am trying to get these videos out for you. Copyright strikes have been hitting my channel, so that's probably why sometimes the footage looks a bit distorted. But you know, this is my first kind of month trying these things, and all I can do is assure you lot I'm going to get bigger and better, and I'm going to attempt to get better the same way I demand of my players and my manager. You lot stay safe, stay blessed. I'm out. One love. One love.